This one is entitled, we will call this one Evil is Relative. It's your boy Icon with another week of DC TV. So now, and I will say one thing about Stargirl because this is the episode before the season finale. The next episode is the season finale, and when I do my Stargirl reviews, I actually have two songs that I use. One is a heroic, uplifting, save the day song. The other one's a little bit more like dark and mysterious because the show has both villains and it has both heroes. I've been using that villain song a lot this like this season because this season's been kind of dark. It's been a little dark, but but I actually appreciate that for once for the first time I think since ever we actually got a previously on Stargirl. They actually took us through like the whole season up until this point, showing us like all the things that happened. With certain people getting killed, Rick going to jail. Like Yolanda quitting the team. Like it shows like all these bad things, and I'm just like yeah, like we're recapping this. We're going through with this villainy, like with this evilness, and I'm very interested to see like where it goes. And then they ruin it with the dog video. The montage of the dog and the staff, apparently being too sexy for this house. And that took me completely out of the moment. Wasn't a fan of it, and I didn't see the point. I actually thought it was silly. It was like unnecessary silly. So moving right along now, let's talk about the actual episode, and let's get back to the darkness. So now that everyone's, well, not everybody, but now that they've, everybody's out of the Shadowlands, we're trying to come together to stop Eclipso, and decisions need to be made, and team members need to be put together. Pat and Courtney, they even say that they're just like, listen, we got to come up with a team. We need all hands on deck. We got to get everybody together because Eclipso's some serious business, and we got to take them down. One thing that got brought up in the last episode when I was talking about how Jenny used her magic ring to show where the Shade's location was, it showed two different smoke signals, like one smoke signal in one place and one in the other. And I was saying how like they, like Pat and Barbara, they went down to the movie theater. That's where the Shade was, and they ended up helping getting Courtney home. Then I touched on the fact that we never actually got to see what the other smoke was, and and I even said that Jenny and Beth were supposed to go down there to check on the other smoke signal, but I was like, but we never got that scene because they were saving it for this episode, and they show us what the two of them were doing. When they both go down to the school, it turns out that there was some, I don't know if that was Shade residue or if that was Eclipso residue. I'm going to assume it was Shade residue. They found that on the floor, and it was alive. Like it was definitely alive. Jenny used her ring to try to destroy it, but a little piece of it jumped onto her ring when her and Beth weren't looking. And I guess now a piece of the Shade or a piece of Eclipso, depending on what that residue was, now exists within the ring, which is connected to Jenny. So now Jenny is influenced by the thoughts and everything from that goo. The weird thing about it is you would think that the ring would be able to expel that, but I don't know. I don't know how the physiology works, but we're just gonna go with it. So now, like I said, it's either the Shade or it's Eclipso. Whoever it is, one of them is in the ring and they're messing with Jenny's mind. Beth gets the call that Courtney's back home and everybody's back home, so the two of them go running awkwardly back to the house. They get to the house, and when they get to the house, Cindy's there, and then they see Cindy, and then Beth is just like, oh, how could you work with Cindy? And then she's just like, yeah, I know, but we gotta do what we gotta do. We gotta get all hands on deck here, in order to stop Eclipso. And Cindy was very interesting because Cindy has mommy issues. She was being like sassy with everybody, everybody except for Barbara. And there was even a moment where Barbara, did the shame on you, she was like, no more trouble, young lady. And then you can tell that for all the evil, for all the bad, for all the crazy that Cindy does, at the end of the day, she honestly just wants a mom, and she wants a mom to put her in check and tell her what to do and punish her. She actually wants that because that was something she didn't have in her life. And I feel like it's not going to happen now, but I feel like in season 3, there's going to be an episode of season 3 where Cindy actually tries to steal Barbara. But but we'll see it. We'll see if that comes to pass later on. So like I said, so Cindy's walking around the house and she's basically just allowing Barbara, to be her mom. Barbara, even with Jenny, she brings food to Jenny. She made Cindy a sandwich. She brings Jenny food. And then she was talking to Jenny because she told Jenny, she was like, Pat told me that the ring, takes a lot out of you. So she was like, just lie down. Jenny's having these weird nightmare visions and everything. She's going crazy, but we don't find out what she was actually seeing until we get to the end of the episode. So now the whole team, so we got the team that we got now, but everybody's like, listen, if we're going to take down Eclipso, we need help. So everybody who was present went out, except for Dr. McNider and Beth, because the two of them met for the very first time, like face to face. And I did not realize that Dr. McNider was blind. I mean, if they mentioned it earlier, my bad, but I didn't think he was, like, I was shocked when I saw that this man was blind. And then he had his magical glasses, which he obviously used to help him see. So, and then, he was talking to Pat and everything, and then I was just like, can this dude see or can he not? It was so weird to me, but I guess that's something I missed, because I'm like, how did you even build the glasses? Like, if you can't see, and then Pat tried to apologize to him, and he was like, it goes without saying, Stripesy, he's like, now we must focus our efforts on taking down Eclipso. And then even in the Shadowlands, now that I think about it, when Dr. McNider and Courtney were in the Shadowlands, he says to Courtney, he's like, oh, I don't, he was like, oh, I keep my goggles on because if I take them off, and then all I'll see is my daughter. And I'm like, no, you keep your goggles on, because you take them off, you're freaking blind. But I said, that really bothered me. It was like, I swear I feel like I missed something. But anyway, so now the entire team now, they're trying to recruit, they're trying to reassemble the JSA. And it breaks off into certain sections, like into different sections of people. Mike immediately went after the Thunderbolt, and he found the Thunderbolt in the form of young Jakeem. I don't know why this boy named Jakeem, but they named this boy Jakeem. So he don't even look like a Jakeem. So he runs up on Jakeem. Apparently the two of them have known each other this entire time because they were both on the paper route together, to the point where Mike felt like he could talk to him like any kind of way. So he runs up on him, and he's just like, yo, and he basically explained the whole thing about how he was the original Thunderbolt, and he was like, yo, I need the Thunderbolt back. And then he was like, how do you even know about the Thunderbolt? And he was like, because I was the first person who had him. He was like, yeah, but you gave him up. He was like, I didn't mean to give him up. I just said that I wish that the pen would go to somebody more deserving. And then he was like, hold up, you thought I was more deserving? he was like, what made you think I was more deserving to have the pen? And then he was like, well, where's Thunderbolt? And then he was like, well, I wished for some Chinese food. And then he was like, you fool, like he's probably halfway to China by now. Then he was like, how long was he gone? And he's like, I don't know, like 4 hours. And they just like, look, we gotta talk because we need to save the world and you need to be a part of that. So basically Mike tells him, he's like, look, the world's at stake and we need you to take the Thunderbolt and jump into action. You're a part of the JSA now. He said, although the bar is set very low. And it took no convincing at all for this kid to be like, sure, I'll join the team. And when you're the owner of the Thunderbolt, I understand why that is, because it's not like your life is in danger. You just basically just sit in the cut and make wishes all day, but still, this boy's like 12. And his ghetto ass sister showed up and everything. They did this whole joke with them doing the dishes. But, but the Thunderbolt's in. So now once the Thunderbolt returns from China with the Chinese food, they're going to bring him into the fold so they can help stop Eclipso. Pat, he went down to Rick's uncle's hospital bed because Rick's uncle, legit like a coward, pressed charges against Rick for what for what he did. And then Pat went down to the hospital to talk to the uncle and to convince the uncle to drop the charges. And he asked him, he said, like your son is he's your son. He said that your nephew is a good kid and you were the one that was being a complete ass to him the entire time. And, he's like, the least you could do right now is just drop the charges and let that boy out of prison so he can live his life. His uncle decided to be a dick and he told Pat to go to hell. And then all of a sudden, like a shadow fell over Pat. Because one of the phrases that kept coming up in this entire episode was that evil is relative. And Eclipso has been getting into the darkness. He's been like feeding into the darkness of each individual character throughout the course of the entire season. The only person besides Beth that he was unable to touch was Courtney. And he kind of got to Courtney in the previous episode because he got Courtney to admit that she hates him. And then once she used the H word, that's how Eclipso knew that he could have his clutches into her, if he just kept pressing. But you can see it affected Pat because once the uncle agreed to not let, Rick out of jail to drop the charges, Pat basically closed the blinds. He closed the shades, he turned out the lights, and then he did God knows what to Rick's uncle. But in the very next scene, Rick got out of prison, Pat went to pick him up from jail, and then he was just like, yo, my uncle dropped the charges, how come? And he was like, I have no idea. So now Rick is back, and Rick's trying to figure out how to fix the hourglass so he can contribute to the team in some way, shape, or form. Barbara, while she was doing the dishes, like baking cookies, the shade I told you the shade wasn't dead. I still feel like that black goo that was on the floor was shade residue, and if that's so, because like you don't kill the shade, like it gets the shade. So The shade is still around. It's like you can't even say it's one of those things where, oh, there was just a random shadow. Maybe Barbara's probably saying things we don't know for sure. It was basically his shadow silhouette. It's the shade. So the shade ain't dead, and the shade will pop up in the season finale to help them take down Eclipso. So we got the Thunderbolt, we got Rick out of jail, and then even Cindy had made a phone call, and she called somebody. She was like, "Oh, you finally picked up." She was like, "Come back to Blue Valley, we need you." And I'm like, "You're basically talking to Artemis because Cindy ain't got no friends." like she wasn't talking to the Gambler because the Gambler's useless. All the other ISA members are dead. The only person left is Artemis. I mean, Artemis and Artemis's parents, but Artemis's parents went back to prison, so I seriously doubt she called Artemis's parents. Basically, she called Artemis to bring her ass because that girl's still running from what from what happened when they had that fight in the school. So so she makes the call to Artemis, and we'll see Artemis in the season finale as well. Courtney basically went to go reach out to Yolanda. And she went to go talk to Yolanda, and she was like, "Listen, we need you to come back." And then she was like, "Go away, Courtney." And then Courtney's just like, "Oh, you weren't the only JSA member to kill somebody." She said that the entire JSA murdered the original, guy that was the, that had the diamond, the original guy that had Eclipso. They murdered him. So you see, they did bad things too. They've killed people too. So it's all good. And then Yolanda's looking at her like, "Bitch, like, you thought that was gonna make me feel better?" She's like, "Great. So now everybody that wears this costume is basically a full-blown killer." She was like, "That doesn't help." And then Courtney was just like, "Oh, I miss you. You're my best friend." And I'm like, "Didn't you have a best friend in the pilot? Like, what happened to that girl? Like, she had a best friend in the very first pilot episode. Now all of a sudden Yolanda, I gotta remember these are high school kids. I do have to remember they're high school kids. So Yolanda was, and then Yolanda getting dark as hell. Like, she be cutting her eyes and the way she be looking at everybody. Like, something wrong with that girl. Like, the actress herself, she's been taking some evil acting classes, but that's a little too convincing. So she pretty much tells Courtney to kick rocks, and then she's like, "I'll never wear that costume again," and then she dramatically storms off. Courtney goes home and she's just like, "Yolanda's not coming back, Mom." She's all like crying and everything. And then Cindy, I guess Cindy was like eavesdropping. So then Cindy goes to Yolanda's house to talk to Yolanda. And then when she spoke to her, she was just like, "Oh, I heard you're not coming back to the team." And then she was like, "No, I'm not." And she was like, "Good, because we don't need you." And then she was like, "Who's we?" She was like, "I'm on the team because because you won't join." She was like, "I'm going to be with Courtney. I'm going to be by her side where you were supposed to be." And then she was just like, "But we don't need you because you're weak," and blah, blah, blah. And then she touched a nerve and she finally answered a question I've been asking since last season. The whole thing when Yolanda sharing her personal photos, I forgot the boy name. I was about to call him Rick. I forgot the boy name. Brainwave Jr. We'll call him Brainwave Jr. When she had sent him some personal photos, and the next day, I guess when she was at giving a speech or whatever, all her pictures got leaked. I said back then it was Cindy that. Go back and watch my video for that episode. I said it was Cindy. It was Cindy. Cindy admitted it was Cindy. She said that but that's messed up though, because Henry, boy name is Henry. If Henry and Yolanda were dating at the time, then the question remains, how did Cindy even get her hands on the photos to be able to send them out to every single person in school? So either Cindy knows how to hack into knows how to hack into phones, from her computer at home, or Henry shared those pictures with Cindy, which means that Cindy and Henry were probably getting it on, and he was cheating on Yolanda anyway. So, so this is like all this high school drama. But anyway, so then Cindy was just like, "Whatever, bitch," she was just like, "Just don't come back to the team." And then Cindy dips. So of course, in the very next scene, Yolanda comes back to the house. She's like, "I want to join the team. I want to rejoin the team." So of course, she lets her join the team with no hesitation. And she's like, "Where's my suit?" And I'm like, "Who are you? Like, who is this person?" So now the whole team's back together. Yay. And, I guess because, like I said, we got, the OGs are back. The Yolanda back, Rick back. We got Thunderbolt in the mix. So everybody but Barbara basically gonna suit up, and they're gonna go down and they're gonna take care of Eclipso. And then in the final scene, Beth and Dr. McNider, they were both, trying to boost a signal to do something. They're trying to hack into some satellites to do something. And then Eclipso basically ran up on both of them. And then she was just like, then Beth was just like, oh, Eclipso's here. And she was like, I sent out a distress alert to the entire team. Everybody's on their way, you son of a bitch. And then he was like, good, because that's what I wanted. He was like, I wanted everybody here. And then while Eclipso's talking, they cut back to Jenny, who's in the bed. She's like twisting and turning and everything, and she's seeing these images. Like these images are like going into her mind. And like I said, I'm still unclear if it's Eclipso or the Shade, but these images are going into her mind. And then she was just like, then Eclipso was just like, oh, he's like, I'm here. He said, I want everybody to come here so I can do the one thing that I wasn't able to do up until this point, and that was to basically feed off the darkness of Courtney Whitmore. And then Jenny was shown an image of evil Courtney. Evil Courtney looked exactly like Earth X Supergirl in the Earth X Nazi crossover, because when she turned around I was just like, oh shit. So Overgirl. But yeah, so apparently Eclipso's gonna get into Courtney's mind in the season finale, and he's gonna turn her evil. So it's gonna be the entire team fighting against both Courtney and Eclipso. And that's how the episode ended. And thank you for tuning in. So one episode left, one more episode 12 in the books, one more to go for Stargirl, and then we're gonna close the book on Stargirl for this season, and we'll move on to other stuff. Like I said, I love me some Stargirl, but I'm reviewing a lot of TV shows, so to get one off the plate, so I can focus on the other ones and pump those out quicker will definitely be good. But share your thoughts. Let me know what you think is going to happen in the season finale. No spoilers if you already know what's going to happen, but just share your questions, comments, and concerns. Leave a comment, leave a like. Hell, leave a question, or just any overall thoughts about it. And if you post something in the comment section, I'll take your question, your comment, or your concern. I'll put it up in the video, and I'll address it in the season finale. Check me out on Twitter, check me out on Instagram, hit the notification bell, subscribe if it's your first time to the channel, because again, if you like DC TV, if you like some Marvel as well, we're going through all that. We're banging it out one by one, because The Flash is coming back and Supergirl's about to end, but we still got other great shows like Doom Patrol and Young Justice. So thanks for tuning in, guys. So until the season finale of Stargirl, see you next time. Take care, and for pure evil, I'm out this. Meow.